This is EDL 852, Module 10, helping students realize their learning norms. The 10 expectations that students should have from their school include relationships, relevance, time, timing, play, practice, choice, authenticity, challenge, and application. I thought these were really interesting because if you were to ask me what 10 learning norms should be for students, I probably would have come up with a different list. And I would imagine that just about everybody would too. It just kind of depends on their philosophy of education. But these are the 10 expectations that we're going to go with. We're going to start with relationships. This has to begin with teachers because teachers work the closest with our students. And I think it's important that we take a genuine interest in the person and not just the student and what they can do as a student, like test scores and homework and all that stuff. And it's going to take time to get to know the students and what their needs are. And as adults, it's important that we help them make connections with other adults because sometimes it's a little scary. Sometimes the principal is scary, and sometimes maybe the police chief's scary. I don't know, but that's kind of our job is to kind of help bridge that gap. And most importantly, I think it's important that we just listen to the students. They just want to feel like they're real people too, and that they're heard, and that they matter to somebody. And when it comes to being a teacher, that's something that we can very easily do and have a lot of influence over. Next is relevance. I think this basically just boils down to being creative. It's important that teachers have updated curriculum and tools to use. We need to put an emphasis on real world situations and skills, and if possible, get out of the classroom. Not everything needs to be, pencil and a book and paper. We can maybe, get our hands dirty and do something different to make our learning relevant. Next is time. We need to find creative solutions to the constant march of learning. Things are consistently going on and on and on. It's important that we have extended opportunities for learning for those students who are maybe a little bit faster. But we also need to have interventions for students that maybe need more support. And the emphasis does not need to be on, okay, well, you need to be done with this a month ago. Well, you're still learning it. And if students really are still learning it, then they obviously need more time. And I think it's important that teachers need the time as well to be flexible with this kind of thing. Um, like if teachers are feeling the pressure to get through all of this stuff in a certain amount of time, they're not going to be able to give students that time. And so I think that's kind of something that an administrator can really help with. Next is timing. This again has to do with flexibility in curriculum from teachers. You don't necessarily have to teach things in a specific order. And this would make learning extremely personalized for students. And it may require some more staff to kind of help organize this type of thing. I know it can be kind of scary for teachers to imagine all the students in your class, all of them learning something different at the same time, or it may require some alternate methods of teaching. Next is play, and this really has to do with our students really allowed to make mistakes and learn from their mistakes and recognize that their mistakes really aren't that big of a deal. Um, we need to first reduce an emphasis on testing. We place so much on testing. And I know it's to try to get students to care about it and to do their best, but for a lot of students, it just stresses them out and makes them feel like they maybe don't quite matter as much and it's just about their test score. But of course, that's not true. I think it's important that we allow for exploratory lessons, things like labs and project based learning and that kind of a thing, and to really kind of delve deeper into some topics that we're learning. And in my own classroom, what I do is I allow students to redo assignments as many times as they need until they get a score that they're happy with. And that kind of helps to reduce a lot of that anxiety about grades and test scores and that kind of a thing. And in turn, I put more of an emphasis on your learning and not necessarily your scores. Next is practice. It's important to spiral material to keep it fresh, and that is for literally all subjects. It's something that we can all do. It Make sure that you are building off of what you've already learned, and don't just do it once and move on. Make sure that there's adequate time spent on each topic. If you spend a literal day on teaching area, don't expect the students to learn it, because no one would be able to learn that in a day. That's just not enough time. But also, I think it's important not to spend too much time on something if they're ready to move on. Um, Also, it's important to develop vertical alignment teams for teachers. A lot of our standards, they go from grade level to grade level, right? They build off each other, and it's important to know where the students are coming from and where they are going, in order to practice adequately in our classrooms. Next is choice. We need to have a variety in the curriculum. That would include things not just like, different types of science classes, biology, chemistry, physics, different types of extracurricular activities, and different different non-core types of classes, and in order to choose those, I think it's important that we get feedback from students on topics that interest them. It's not every school is the same. Some schools maybe really would want art, and some schools would maybe really want a construction class. It kind of depends on the students, right? And also, it's important to hire specialty teachers and to keep them. They are usually some of the first to go whenever there's budget cuts, and that it honestly is a huge loss, because a lot of students just don't excel in a regular, math or English class or whatever. And really, those, that art class is really where they excel. That music class is their thing. So it's important that not only we hire these people that the students need, but also to do our best to keep them. And then finally, there's authenticity. We need to use only vetted curriculums. We can't just like pull all of our stuff off of Teachers Pay Teachers just because it looks really cute. And we should incorporate projects. And this should also include some community involvement and betterment types of projects. Like, it should be based on problem solving within our community, and it should stay relevant and use up to date materials. We can't be using textbooks from 1972. That's just not going to be relevant. Um, so we just have to make sure that all of our stuff is up to date. Next is challenge. We need to offer extensions to learning, because we're going to have a lot of fast finishers, right? Um, and that will enable us to differentiate our instruction. You can't just like have kids just checking off the list. It needs to be fairly deep instruction, using those depth of knowledge type of questions. We need to encourage engagement with our global community at large. And then, like I said previously, it's a focus on problem solving, taking what you know and applying it to some problems that we are seeing, maybe within our school, within our city, or even more broad than that. And then finally, we have application. We can achieve this norm by incorporating project based learning, helping students to use their knowledge to solve the problems that they see in our community and engaging with our community. And then we need to also be willing to branch off from the written curriculum. Just because it's not in the textbook doesn't mean it's not something that our students should be able to do or just could do. And I think part of this is that teachers are afraid to run out of time by the end of the year. Oh no, I'm not going to get to everything, and that's something that principals can help teachers with. It's okay as long as it's relevant to the students and it's something that can really help them. Then I think that that's worth it. Okay, so my standard correlation. I'm not going to read these to you. These are my three statements, and here is my reference.